Hey, thanks for checking out my latest video. Please subscribe to my channel for more content. I'm going to talk real quick about the John Deere Classic, which is the PGA event coming up this week. It's got a field that's pretty weak. The top end of it is led by like Cam Young, Russell Henley, Denny McCarthy are the three biggest betting favorites. Also, Abberg is up there pretty high, and some others. Let's go over the DFS outlook for this tournament. So last week in DFS, I basically ended up breaking even. It wasn't like the week before where I had a massive win, but on the other hand, I didn't lose. At times, it looked like I was going to. Do really well. On Friday, I was up about $2,000, and then I went up and down. But real quick, my best lineup actually was in the $25 one, the $200,000 first prize one on DraftKings. Finished 454th, but that's with Finau missing the cut. If I had picked, let's say, Morikawa or Fowler, probably more likely would have been Morikawa. Let's just say in this case, that would have given me 720 points, which actually would be enough for first. That doesn't mean I necessarily would have got first because there may have been other people along the way. I didn't see any others who were missing their kind of top golfer, but bottom line is, I had one great lineup. Just the big guy dropped me down. I had a 2, 4, 9, a 7, and a 14th place finisher. Overweight on all of them relative to the field. However, and the guy who won it had the 1, 2, 2, the three that tied, Morikawa, Fowler, and Hadwin, with Schenk, and then two sub 7,000 guys, Sam Bennett and Ryder, who both finished fairly far down, but were very low owned. I was very underweight Fowler. He ended up coming in at 36% in the big tournament on DraftKings. He was projected like 25%. So a lot of people went with him. And the chalk came in, and I was underweight him. I had about 18%. I had sort of the most on Finau and Homa, and then a little bit less on him, less on Justin Thomas, less on Matsuyama. So anyway, so that put me a little bit underweight relative to that lineup. But you can see really the only one I'm significantly underweight is Fowler. A little bit under Bennett. Here I was overexposed on all of these guys. And again, really good lineup. Came in 454 out of 47,000. That was my best performing one of the week. Just real quick, I gave a video last week with a preview, but so these are the ones that it turned out that I had the most leverage on, approximately. These guys last week, just to look to see if my formula for ranking players and whatnot and what's values is working. You can see it worked pretty well last week because all of these guys made the cut except for Hoagie, who was actually my largest overexposed one. And 6 of them finished top 25 or 21st or better. Excuse me. So the ones I faded on a relative basis last week, of that group, 3 of them missed the cut, but I left off 3 that finished. 3 of these finished in the top 25. So Norman, Fowler, and Dylan Wu. So overall, it looks like the leans or the leverage plays worked better than the fades, in my case, for me. So this week, now let me just go over the sample lineups I showed last week as well. These didn't do that well as they were formed here. The first one I gave out was this one, and Hubbard missed the cut, but this one did have some nice finishers. So you swap somebody else for Hubbard in there. That lineup actually came out really strong. This one had 3 missed cuts. Finau, Brandon Wittenholzer. This one had Tom Kim, Eckroat, and Hoagie. So those didn't do good compared to the previous week. However, the basic chalk lineup was this approximately. And this had 2 missed the cut. Eckroat was one of the widest owned players, and Byung and Benyon missed the cut. So this week, I have as part of I have a tier 1, and then like a 2A and 2B. Tier 1, now all these projected ownerships are from RotoWire, and they can change. They may not be totally accurate, but tier 1, I have Henley, McCarthy, and Cam Young. These are the current win odds on them. These are the DraftKings salaries. And by the way, the win odds have flipped. Money is coming in on Henley from earlier in the week. McCarthy was the biggest favorite earlier in the week, and now it's Henley. So money is coming in on Henley. Projected ownership of these, Cam Young is the lowest by far. So you can get overexposed on. You can get leverage with him pretty easily. Whether he comes in or not is another story. Then I sort of have a 2A and a 2B. 2A, and so they're very close, but 2A is basically Grillo, Schenk, and Taylor Moore by my formula rankings. Of these, Moore has very low projected ownership. These Grillo's the best salary-wise at $9,200. But all probably good plays. But you can see these two are fairly chalk, as are McCarthy and Henley. Tier B, basically, Kirk, Nick Taylor, Hadwin, Seamus Power, and Cole. Power projected only 8% ownership, Taylor only 12%. Taylor far below in salary, making him pretty much the best salary bargain according to my rankings. Now, I believe he does have a poor course history here and at similar type courses, but that is taken into account in my rankings, and I have him as the best salary-based value of the week. And you can see the odds to win there. He is actually only a 40-1. So he's in the top 15 lowest best odds to win it, and has a low DraftKings salary. So these two potential leverage plays. As far as some sample lineups, so this approximately would be something along the lines of a chalk lineup this week. And my exposures are going to change a little bit, or maybe a little off, but and again the projections may be off, but something like this would probably be a chalk type lineup. Henley, Yeager, Smalley, Glover, Dylan Wu, and Carson Young. You can see their projected ownerships there. Adds up to 50 on the nose. I'm underexposed on this. Basically a little bit there, a decent amount there, a little bit there, a lot there, a lot there, a bit there. So I'm fairly underexposed on that chalk. What I did want to mention this week is I don't think the favorites are up and above and beyond that much. So I think I put less in them than I did like last week, where there was like a big 6 golfers or a big 4 or big 8 who seemed very likely that 1 or 2 of them would come up high. This tournament could go all kinds of places, and I would definitely recommend having a good amount of lineups that have 1 to 500 salary free, and probably a good amount that have, or 1 to 400, let's say, extra money, and probably a decent amount that have 5 to 900. It's hard to go beyond that and have 1,000. It's hard for me even to go beyond 500, but it could be one of those ones where a low salary comes in and wins it with a weird combination. It's hard to be super confident in any of these guys to win it. But if I had to pick based on sort of like my exposure, how I would probably build 3 different lineups: Henley, Grillo, Nick Taylor, Ches Reavie, Adam Svensson, and Lucas Glover. Now, this is a pretty chalk lineup, almost as chalk as the chalk lineup, I said. So I'm only actually about equally exposed with this. Overexposed on Nick Taylor and Svensson. Underexposed on Lucas Glover. Then another lineup would be McCarthy on top with Patrick Rogers, Straka, Kuchar, Taryn, and Nesmith. You can see 4 of these guys are under 10%. The first one only had Svensson. Excuse me. Here I'm overexposed, more exposure, but again, on the top guys, I'm not getting super duper high. I'm sort of spreading it out among a lot of the guys that I have as pretty good, and then so that worked well last week because there were guys like Taylor Moore and others, Alex Noren, on that winning lineup or on my best lineup I showed you, that on paper didn't look that great, but there were things to like about them, and sort of rankings wise they came in pretty high, so they weren't highly picked. Alex Noren was only picked by 3% of the people. Same kind of thing with Kuchar here, and even Rogers and Straka, Nesmith, or is it Neesmith? But I'm not super heavy on him. Taryn's apparently going to be popular at 7,300. That lineup comes in at 50K. And then a third model lineup of different players. This one, you really don't have to use Cam Young in these. I don't have a lot of Aberg either, but I have a decent amount, 16%. but it just sort of fit this way. Schenk, Cam Young, K.H. Lee, Hubbard, Todd, and Nick Hardy. Again, I have heavier exposure on these, but not crazy amounts compared to what is expected. Under on Schenk, a little over on that. K.H. Lee, Todd, and Hardy, all expected to be 5 or 6%. It's the kind of thing where if you look like it last week, Eckroat not coming in, I mean, if Hubbard comes in at 15%, there's a lot of guys in this range that sort of measure up just as good. So it'd be better to have a balance of those. And that one came in at 50 also. Let me see if there was something else I wanted to mention. I didn't make a list of guys with some bonus factors, but let's see. What I did want to mention here. I did want to mention so on the relative fades. Okay, so I'm sorry. So I didn't go over the ones I'm currently leveraged the most on and the ones I'm currently fading the most based on what expected ownerships are. So sort of in order, I think. This is the projected ownership. This is the win odds, and this is the DraftKings salary. So I'm overexposed, or I have leverage on Nick Taylor, Kuchar, K.H. Lee, Rogers, Taylor Montgomery, Keith Mitchell, JT Poston, Svensson, Power, Straka, Hostler, Stevens, and Todd. And you can see none of those are over 10% ownership except for Nick Taylor. Relative fades. Glover, Dylan Wu, Yeager, McCarthy, Schenk, Gim, Taryn, Carson Young, Ryan Moore, Kodaira, Henley, Cole, Chesson Hadley, and Sig. And again, I do have all these. Now, actually, I didn't have one single one of Moore or Kodaira. So when I saw they were projected at 5%, I went ahead and added one each to lineups because I didn't actually have them. I don't do. There's some guys under 7,000 I took on this one more than in previous weeks, but I didn't take them in particular. But you can notice the win odds on the ones that I'm overweight are all 70 or less, mostly all 60, 50. Those have been tended to be the guys that have been coming in on the lower end of the cards. That lineup I showed you had, that I had 5 guys in the top 14, I think, and then Finau missed the cut. It was like that. This has quite a few as well, but then a few that are 100 to 1 or higher, or 90 to 1 type thing. So those are some names that I guess you could say I like, or have. I'm having more of them in my lineups. Last week I did about $800, probably 100 lineups or something. This week I think I'm only doing $500 or $600, probably like 80 lineups. I have to double check. Mostly in the $5 one that wins for a $25,000 first prize. I capped out the $3 multi-entry. I did some of the $20, $25 ones, a few others. But it's a pretty wild card week. I don't think the names at the top are, I don't think you can be super duper confident in them. And going back to last week, so the winning lineup in this that won 200,000 was a polarized one of two top guys, 2 real cheapies, and a medium high and then a medium low type one. But this has kind of been the style that's worked a little bit better for me, is one big name, at least the last 2 weeks, including the contest I won for 50,000. One up here, maybe one in the 9s, high 8s, and then the others in the 7s type of thing. And again, in particular, I would say like Moore, Noren, they didn't look that great on paper last week, but they came in. And that's sort of a matter of putting a certain amount of exposure into everybody and sort of going down by my rankings, which take into account the betting odds, recent performance in this particular tournament, sort of some metrics and a model that I use from one site, including like comp courses. And then I also take into account the World Golf Ranking and the FedEx ranking. And I sort of give bonus factors to golfers. There were a couple really cheap ones. Let me just see here really quick. As far as bonus factors, Kang at 6,500 at a couple. Bird at 6,700. Chesson Hadley and Grayson Sig. On the top of the board, Henley, McCarthy, and Grillo have the most. And Grillo and Nick Taylor are probably going to be my two most owned. Grillo, Nick Taylor, and Henley are probably my three most owned players. All right, so that's it. Good luck, everybody. Hope you do well in the Deere on DFS. Drop me a message on the YouTube video if you have any comments, or if you did end up doing well, or who you like this week. And please remember to subscribe to my channel and like my videos. Thanks. Have a good one.